Julio Cardozo and Daniela Grecci met at work. Julio was 47 years old and Daniela was 40. Both were civil servants in the city of Caraguatatuba in Brazil, which is located on the north coast of the state of São Paulo. Daniela had 3 daughters: Maria Eduarda, 15 years old, Manuela, 13 years old, and the youngest, Mariana, 9 years old, all from a previous relationship. In addition to being a civil servant, Daniela was also a blogger and was very fond of traveling and surfing. She had almost 10,000 followers on her social network, where she used to post pictures traveling and surfing. Maria Eduarda, Daniela's eldest daughter, was following her mother's footsteps in surfing. On her social network, she liked to share her photos on the beach, always happy and smiling. Manuela, the middle daughter, was described as a quiet girl who wanted to pursue a modeling career. She even walked the runway in some events. Mariana, the youngest daughter, is described as a calm girl who exudes happiness. Daniela's relationship with Julio was quite troubled. They were together for about 3 years. Arguments, breakups, and aggressions by Julio were frequent, and every time the relationship seemed to have come to an end, he tried to get back in every way. According to close people, the coexistence between the two had already been deteriorating over time. Some of the couple's best friends described Julio as a violent man and mentioned a trip the couple took to Angra dos Reis in Rio de Janeiro, in which Julio had even attacked Daniela. In addition to the problems, it is also said that Julio didn't get along with the girls. According to a friend of the couple, he was possessive and saw his wife as a trophy, which made him jealous even of his stepdaughters. On the morning of July 15, 2021, Daniela and the girls were at home when Julio arrived and knocked on the door. Daniela answered the door and almost immediately the couple began to argue. This discussion would have lasted a few minutes, and according to some neighbors, in the sequence, they heard cries for help coming from the house. Upon hearing the screams, they decided to call the police to find out what was going on. However, it was too late, and the police were unable to arrive in time to prevent the tragedy. In the middle of the discussion, they ended up getting into a physical fight. Julio then pulled a knife and struck Daniela several times, all in front of the girls, who watched without being able to do anything. After taking the life of his ex-girlfriend, the man was not satisfied and decided to do the same with the daughters. Terrified, the girls ran in an attempt to save themselves. Maria Eduarda was caught in one of the bathrooms in the house while trying to hide. Manuela ran to a shed at the back of the house, but was reached by Julio, who took her life without hesitation. Mariana, the youngest, was hit but somehow managed to escape and ran to the second floor of the house, from where she jumped through a window, falling over an electric fence and later on the ground. The girl still had the strength to get up and run towards the beach, where she asked the Maritime Firefighters group for help, saying, "I think he killed my mother and my sisters." At that moment, a neighbor went to the family's house to find out what was going on. He was answered by Julio, who said that the girls were screaming because of a cockroach. The neighbor saw that Julio had blood on his hands and clothes and questioned him about it. The criminal declined to say that it was due to the plate that Daniela had thrown at him in an argument. Then Julio took his bicycle that was in the garage of the house and pedaled away. Stranged by the whole story told by Julio, and also the fact that he was covered in blood, the neighbor decided to call the police. The police were already on their way. As I mentioned, they were called as soon as the neighbors heard first the screams and cries for help. Little Mariana was quickly rescued and taken to the hospital. Her condition was serious. Another neighbor, in a later statement, said that he heard a very loud falling noise and thought that Julio had thrown his ex-girlfriend out the window. But in fact, the noise was Mariana's fall, who jumped to escape him. The bodies of the mother and the 2 daughters had to remain in the site until 5 p.m., so that an analysis by experts from the scientific police could be carried out. Subsequently, they were referred to the body responsible for carrying out the necropsy. The criminal acted with such violence that the knife used in the crime was stuck in the throat of one of the sisters. According to the police, the man would have left Mariana, the youngest daughter, for Last probably believing that she would be the easiest target. He would also have used another object to strike her and not the knife he used in the other 3 victims, which may have contributed to the girl being able to escape. The delegate in charge of the case, Vanderlei Pagdarini, said that it was one of the most barbaric crimes he has seen on his police career. He also said that he did a thorough inspection of the house so that there were no loopholes left that could be used by the criminal's defense lawyers in a possible trial. City residents were stunned by the crime as soon as the news spread. The neighborhood where the family lived is considered noble and one of the safest to live in the city. Everyone in town was apprehensive and scared as the perpetrator was on the run and extremely dangerous. Several publications were made on social networks regarding the case, and asking that if anyone had any information about Giulio's whereabouts, they should immediately inform the authorities. The family's neighbors were called to the police station to give testimony, in the hope that they could provide some information relevant to the investigations. The presence of specialized tactical teams was requested, in addition to teams from the military police cannon to participate in the operation. The police had access to a security camera on the street of the property that showed the suspect leaving the scene of the crime on a bicycle and with blood-stained clothes. In these recordings, it was possible to see that he left towards a forest location in the city. Still in the afternoon, police located the bicycle that would have been used by the criminal. It was hidden in a bush next to a trail that gives access to a beach known as Brava. The police carried out a siege on the outskirts of the site, and also carried out blitzes and blockades in the city roads. All intercity and interstate buses were searched before leaving the city to ensure the suspect didn't escape. The police also closed several areas and made incursions between Praia Brava and Lagoa Azul in search of the criminal. In addition to land searches, police and firefighters also began searching for the suspect in the water. As informed by the police, the teams received anonymous reports that the man had left the Capricorn neighborhood around 7:40 p.m. and headed towards the highway. He was also allegedly spotted fleeing to a vacant lot, where he did for a period of time. Around 10 p.m., military police officers patrolling the Jardim Capricornio neighborhood saw a man who ran in the wooded area as soon as he saw the vehicle. This wooded area is located between the neighborhood where the crime took place and the neighborhood where the police were patrolling. As soon as they saw the man run into the bush, the team immediately drove onto the scene to check if it really was the escaped criminal. Upon entering the woods, the police were surprised by Julio, who attacked them with a knife, wounding one of them on the arm. The criminal even tried to attack the other police officers, but before he could hurt them, he was hit by shot fired by the agents. After the confrontation, the police called the ambulance to help the criminal, but when they arrived, the man was already dead. Altogether, the searches for the killer lasted more than 12 hours, and in that time, the local population was apprehensive and very afraid. Like Daniela, Julio Cardoso also had children from another relationship, but it was not disclosed how many or their ages. Some sources claim that the man suffered from some mental disorder. He even posted in March 2001 on his social network a photo where he said that bipolar disorder was serious. However, I didn't find anything that confirmed that he actually suffered from some disorder. It is also not clear if Julio and Daniela still had a romantic relationship, or if they had broken up. After the crime, the City Hall regretted what happened and guaranteed full contribution in investigations if necessary. Although uncertain, the reason that led the man to commit this terrible crime may have originated in a fight, in which Daniela asked him to leave the house. For some close people, despite the couple's fights, nothing pointed to something like that. They were incredulous at the brutality the man was capable of. According to close friends, in recent months, the couple's bouts of jealousy and fights increased, and Daniela was increasingly determined to end the relationship once and for all. However, the day before the crime, the couple seemed to be doing well and getting along again. A friend of Manuela said that the girl suffered a lot with the separation of her parents and didn't like Julio very much, who had become her stepfather. The families of the victims were distraught over the events. They asked that there be no press at the wake of the victims or at the hospitals where Mariana, Daniela's youngest daughter, was hospitalized. The girl's paternal family asked their wake be held in Caraguatatuba so that they could say goodbye up close. After the wake of the two girls, The bodies were transferred to a nearby town located Piracicaba, where the mother's body was already lying. Guys, just to complement the information, Piracicaba is the city where Daniela's family lives, and that's why the bodies were taken there. On July 16, 2021, Daniela and her daughters, Maria Eduarda and Manuela, were buried together under strong commotion from family members and friends present. Daniela's youngest daughter, and the only survivor of the attack, Mariana Grecci, recovered well despite her serious condition. According to information, she went to live with an aunt. The girl's father and Daniela's ex-partner were in a state of shock and taking medication. For the time being, he is unable to stay with his daughter, as he is extremely shaken by everything that has happened. The crime was probably premeditated, since days before Julian would have told co-workers that he would not be working in the next few days, which indicates a possible planning of the crime and escape. This was the story of one of the crimes that shocked Brazil, a barbaric and cowardly crime that will hardly be forgotten. Well guys, that's it for today. Thanks for watching until the end, best wishes, and I'll see you next time.